This is Jeremiah. He's back. He's black. He's on the attack. This is war. Paul to Timothy. Fight a good fight. Be a good soldier. Let's go. The Salvation Army. This is New Covenant. This is Jeremiah. We're smoking here. I'm going to make mention of a few things in Colossians chapter 1 as we get through the New Testament. We're almost on schedule, and I'm happy to say so. We're almost up to 50 Psalms, as giving a rough overview of those chapters in your book 19 in the Old Testament. And here we are in Colossians, and we're going to look at colossal things here. Now we have work over here. I have the playlist, which I haven't gone through in a while, but we will get to that. We have to get to that, as I'm going to make a new playlist for that. And that's going to have its own playlist that you can hit, its own channel rather, and you can go there in general. In other words, I'll have the playlist on all channels, both channels. However, what you can do is, and I'll think of something where because you're going to have two different YouTube pages up. However, I still might do it because I think it's a good idea to have people listen to the Bible studies and go to another page and go to the playlist on another channel, or take time to just go through the playlist and study the Bible by yourself, because I'm just going to read a lot. So the playlist will be up there. The playlist will be there. I think I'm going to put it on a separate channel. I'm going to have it on this channel, of course, that we're on right here, which is New Covenant. But I'll have a separate channel up there where it's just the playlist, so you can really focus on the playlist. In other words, the playlist is there in case you just want to read the Bible and then go to the playlist and look at subjects. It's just a glossary, and you can go there and look at it, and I'll help you to look at a subject. Very similar to your concordance or something, so you can do that, okay? Thesaurus. So that's for you to ascertain on your own. But I do like the idea of putting up a separate playlist here on a channel. And a lot of you can read the Bible by yourself, and then go to the playlist, and you don't need to listen to my lessons if you don't want to. And also, there may be a volume problem in the future. I don't know. I think YouTube has no problem with volume, but I have 900 videos, and that's where this is headed. This is headed where we really cut back on me giving lessons here, and I'm very happy about that, because I'm going to go into lucubration here. I'm going to go into study mode, and I'm getting away from that, and it's not good. It's not good for me not to continue to build here as a Bible teacher, even though I'm an older gentleman. It doesn't hurt me to really go into a Shakespearean mode here, and that's what I want to do. I want to get into a very high, decent grammatical level. Touching grammar, I knew some teachers who were 10 times better at grammar than I was, and I never liked that, because I have a lot of time for music here. Hold it one moment. I've always wanted to enjoy writing and music, even though it's very simple music. I really get a lot of therapy and enjoyment, because I'm singing to the Lord most of the time, if not all the time, and it's very therapeutic, and I really enjoy it. And some of you will go to my music channel here, Jeremiah Michael Pearson Music, and you can enjoy the music that I have to offer. I also have music that's not mine, which is 101 Strings. They don't mind me using 3 of their videos free of charge. You can just listen to the videos. It's free. Now, I guess they've made enough money, or they continue to make money. I don't know what their monetary situation is, but I do know that they sold thousands and thousands of CDs and albums, originally albums, and they went to CDs, or cassettes to CDs, 8 tracks, whatever. And they and now they're just offering these videos of high definition, and they're just saying you can watch, you can use them. And I'm nonprofit, so I know that they don't mind because this is what I was told, and I'm using their videos. And Professor Howdy is part of this. This gentleman who I don't know very well, but my point is that we're very happy to have those beautiful high definition videos with some of the most beautiful music that's ever been made by American composers, and you get to enjoy that, and it's honoring marriage, and it's very big here online here on my channel here, but I just put them up on the music channel too. So that's really professional music. My music is in many ways is Mickey Mouse compared to these very, 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 very professional people. I've always played music. I played it professionally, but not really from a very serious, I want to learn the piano, I want to learn everything about music. I've never done that. However, I can write music a little, and I can hear music fairly well. So, but as far as being some sort of Mozart, Miles Davis-y, no, I don't think I'll ever, but carrying a tune, I think I can do that okay. That's my point. And I've really enjoyed music. And getting back to the main point here, that's one reason why I've never really been the grammaticist that I needed to be. The grammatist, probably the best word, where you really remember every component of predicate nominative, predicate adjectives pertaining to a linking verb and subject-verb agreement, and memorizing all of those components that I used to teach a little, in K through 12, but to really know all of this and to be able to manipulate it and remember it all the time, that's a lot of work. And I want to get back into that a little bit. So, and that's what's going to enable that is for me to reduce all of this work. And I'm going to have to get back into more discipline. I'm going to stop right here. I don't want to get too personal. It's just that we all have to do what I'm sharing with you right now. It's kind of like we all have to take our game up. Paul says to the high calling. We just keep going higher into work, and you go higher, and before you know it, you're a PhD and you got 2 PhDs and 3 or something. Academic aspects. There's even some mathematical issues here. There's some history issues. I just went through the history of the Hebrews from Moses until now in Palestine, and the geography, and why they called it Palestine, and why the Palestinians think that it's their land based upon owning the land at one short juncture when the Israelites were wiped out. What year was that? So history, geography, mathematics. This is work, people. I stopped painting and stuff, which I miss doing, but because I definitely don't have time for painting now. Painting is a low priority for me now. When I was in college, I used to enjoy painting. I enjoyed watching other people paint. I used to watch I had some good friends who were good painters, and I used to hang out with them a little in college. Aiko was a good painter from Japan. She had a lot of personality in her painting. She kind of reminded me of Van Gogh or something. Here's my point. My point is that we're here to grow, and I need to grow a little, and some of you need to too. Take your discipline level up. Turn your TV game show stuff off. Now, let's get back to Colossians. Now, Colossians, I'm going to take a break here, and I'll be right back. We're back in action. Now, we're not going to rest on our laurels here. We're not Greek athletes who won the Olympics here and got the gold medal on the Bema seat in Greece. We're going to move on, but it is a little celebration going on here in a festival here as we just rejoice in what we've accomplished here. And I'm very happy with that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to write down what we're going to do here. Today is Friday. It should be Friday, the 20th. And I'm going to put down that we're going to mention the April matrix. which is where this ministry is headed as far as you really getting a good grip on Christianity here in general. And we're going to talk about love, agape, and beauty, which is, as you know, we spent most of our year last year on beauty. And now it's time to tie in love and beauty together. In other words, beauty and love are inseparable. Heaven is love. That's what it is. And then we have love and service, or love serve. Paul puts those two words together, and he absolutely hits a grand slam there. That's a touchdown. Okay, love service, which is agape and living bread. Okay? And I guess my ink is out. Let's look at this pen. No wonder it's out. It's spilling ink everywhere. I never had a problem with this pen before. Gosh. This company's going down the tubes too. What isn't going down the tubes now? There's war everywhere. How can anything be done if there's war? You can't have school, you can't. It's horrible. October's turned into a horrible month. Let's get going. 2023, we're going to talk about love and beauty, then love and service, or agape, or love and living bread. And I'm going to point out how love and denial are basically the same thing. There is no successful Christianity without a successful servant mind. It'll never happen. That's the essence of the apostasy, and the essence of people playing games with you if you're a serious Christian, and you're legit. You're a Quaker. You're doing what you're supposed to do. You're on the narrow brick road. You can be surrounded by people who are playing games. Doesn't mean they can't be saved or not saved. It just means that they're not mature Christians, and they can create problems for you. They can introduce lies and get you confused, and they can waste your time too. But I like love and beauty, and love service, and love and living bread, and love and denial as what we're going to get into today. And we're going to get into Corinthians 2. I was going to get into possibly the April Matrix first, which I'll probably do. I wrote that down as where advanced intermediate Christianity is. Advanced Christianity, mature Christianity is where you can put a lot of items together and do that on a regular basis. That's like reading Paul here. Paul is, if you really want to acknowledge everything he says, in a short time, even in a short chapter, it's a lot. It's a lot. And most of the time when people read Paul, or anyone in general, they don't acknowledge everything in their conscious mind. Their subconscious acknowledges it. Because the subjects are too deep to put together and to have the entire cognate of whatever you're reading is. Because the cognate can be very fat. And you're only mentioning and thinking about one aspect of a term. When a term has 4 or 5 definitions, your mind is going to generally acknowledge one simple idea when there's 12 there maybe. That's the point. So to read something and comprehend everything, it's actually quite a job, but let's get going. Let's make a few points on Colossians here. Now, the previous book, Paul said he was a servant. Now he says in Philippians, he's a servant of Jesus Christ. Now he's an apostle of Jesus Christ. Then he mentions the will of God. And in Philippians, he mentions, let's go there. because some of you are skipping your first lesson. Paul and Timotheus, the servants of Jesus Christ. Stop right there. So he says that he's a servant of Jesus Christ. Then he says Paul, an apostle of Jesus Christ. Now he references purity right away. Here he references the will of God right away. An apostle has a special calling. You're not what we would call an everyday Christian. It's a leadership role. And that leadership role is under Jesus Christ. Now he mentions saints and purity next. But servant and the Lord went together first. Now, let's stop and talk about this. Some of you've been going by this, and this goes to number 12 in this ministry, or sound doctrine, which is vocabulary and titles. Clarification in simple things are what I do here. I'm not a Bible teacher on the beast and whatever. I have some beast lessons prepared for you, and I haven't gotten to them, but it's on my table in there, the book of Revelation. But I'll never focus on that as a major issue. I will be a general practitioner for you here. There's a lot to do with basics, such as titles and vocabulary, and then contextualism. That's what I do here most of the time. There's a man on the web who likes to teach Hebrew all the time, and I think he's wonderful. I enjoy him, but that's not my wheelhouse. I'm constantly upgrading basics here over and over again. Basic sound doctrine. And here we have titles. Let's talk about this. Apostle means that you were chosen by God basically personally. Then he mentions it was God's will. Now, let's stop right there. The first point is he belongs to Jesus Christ. The first point is he is subjected to Jesus Christ, which was the previous book, Philippians chapter 1, servants of Jesus Christ. So complete subjection is the first issue. Now, let's combine these. We can combine more, but not right now, such as bondslave. So we have apostle is now an additional title that he has. Now, some of you may have think this is not needed here, but no. Basics are needed big time. For all of us. And the basic here is that we first had servant submitted, I work for this person. Or personage or entity. I work for Jesus Christ. With love labors. Now, by the will of God, he is a special servant who has a leadership role. As a servant. He's still a servant. Now, moving on. He mentions the will of God. Now we're getting into wisdom again. For those of you who want to go to wisdom, I'm going to give you a brief introduction, definition of what wisdom means. Under number 6 here, okay? Now, the will of God means that God gave him this office. Now, the first question is he forcing him to work and stay in the office? is he voluntarily submitting to the will of God. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. That answers the question of validating wisdom. It's God's will for him, and he's going to fulfill God's will. Because Paul mentions numerous times that he is going to allow God's will to be expressed in his life. He's going to yield to this office, and periodically he's going to mention that the office has been very difficult at times. Especially 2 Corinthians chapter 1. Okay? This is going to get a little difficult for him, and he's going to tell you that it gets difficult. His daily cross. Now, that's all I want to mention right now in chapter 1. And we'll be back to this in a couple of weeks. I don't like teaching too many things at one time. Now, I cover the waterfront here of every principle, basically, that Paul talks about here in chapter 1. However, I break it down into these playlists and subjects now. So that everything is now small, short, and to the point, and take a break and then move on. As opposed to, to the saints, the holy ones, that are reliable brethren. Okay. Now we've just introduced some more concepts. Let's stop and rest on that I was, by the will of God, chosen to serve with Timotheus, our brother. Obviously, a fellow worker who is in leadership position. And he is saying, by the will of God here, first it was in Philippians, servant. Now it's the will of God. Now he's emphasizing that God has chosen him for this role. Whereas in another situation, he will refer to wisdom as, I'm going to allow this work to be performed in me. I'm not going to resist, push, or get burnt out. I'm going to hold on to the prize of devoting myself to this office. Okay? Then he goes into the saints and the faithful, which means those who have devoted themselves to purity and in general, and they're reliable brethren. What the word faithful basically means, I'm on the narrow brick road, and that's where I'm going to stay. God entrusted me to love him with all of my heart. I'm going to love him with all of my heart. He told me to love the brethren. I'm commanded. I'm going to love the brethren. So now that makes me faithful. The sound doctrine that he's teaching, they're right in line with it, so he can call them faithful. Can he call the Corinthians faithful? Not necessarily. That's the point. The Colossians are faithful, so we automatically know by the introduction here that they're walking on the narrow brick road and their doctrine's fine. But at the beginning of Corinthians, we have a different introduction, don't we? It's relative to the behavior of the church that he is talking to. The same thing the Master does in the book of Revelation when he introduces the 7 churches. He reveals their characteristics. There's 7 periods of time, chronologies, for 2,000 years, which is closing right now. That's one reason why I have this ministry streamlined now. 52 categories. We're not going to try to cover everything in this ministry. I'm not going to cover Hebrew, David, and all. No. We're going to focus on the basics of Christian sound doctrine here in this ministry, because this is the end of the world here, kind of. We don't know any day now, the rapture and so forth. So we want to focus in on the red letters of the Master here, heavy. That's the point. Doesn't mean I might not mention some Old Testament things. Especially Deuteronomy 7, 8, and Exodus 20, and Psalm 1 through 50 we just went through, and some of the things of Solomon maybe, Job, and of course a lot of Isaiah. So those are your main home run hitters. From science perspective, we need Genesis, Psalms, and so on. As many of you know, I really like to teach a little science here. I use the word science loosely because you know what it means. We really don't want to use that word, but that's okay. It means to acknowledge the truth in American lingo, or down-home conversation. It means I know what I'm talking about. David said that, I know right well. I think it was David. I know right well. That's what science means. It's also referring to a scientific issue of him being born from his mother. Now, which I'm happy to just put up in the music channel, Love in the Womb. We're obviously heavy pro-choice for the baby. Let the baby have a choice whether he wants to live or not. Let him have a choice. I'm pro-choice. I'm pro give the baby a chance to live. We just read where John jumped in Elizabeth's womb. He was happy and he jumped up inside the mother. He jumped and was happy, evidently. This idea that America has turned into some sort of Halloween hellhole from the pit of hell has nothing to do with us. We have nothing to do with being side by side with evil. Nothing to do with this at all. Now I'm going to let Colossians 1 go. That's all I wanted to mention was the title of apostle, the will of God, mentioning wisdom here. Wisdom is having an opportunity and taking advantage of that opportunity, which is what he's doing now. He's actively loving God right now. That's what he's doing. God called him to love God, to love his neighbor. That's what he's doing right now. Work reveals love. He's not just talking about being a consistent lover, like the TV says, I love my dog, I love my car, I love my hot dog. No. This is a man who is in agape love. He's showing consistent love. That's what agape basically means. It means consistent and reliable, and you don't break anybody's heart, like going to jail and leaving your children alone or something. Doesn't mean that person can't be loved. That's not my point. We have no physicality here. We have no emphasis on the flesh and humans' abilities. None. This is a spiritual warfare, and this is a spirit encounter. Love is not physical. It's a spirit. Love in your heart did not come from anything created by the human body or dirt or plants. It comes from Father, which is a ghost. We focus on ghost things here. We're Casper, the friendly ghost cartoon in America here. We are ghost communicators. Soul to soul. I don't care about your body, your performance, what you look like, how well you've done this, and how good of a basketball player you are. If you're a famous basketball player, you don't mean anything to me. You're a janitor to me. That's all you are to me. You may think of yourself as something special because you achieved something in college or something, but in the church, you're basically nobody, and the only person that's somebody here is Jesus. Everybody else is basically nobody. You're loved, but you're basically nobody. Nobody knows any accomplishments you have. When you walk into the church here, when you walk in, you're nobody, and Jesus is everybody. That's the way it goes. That's Protestant Christianity. I won some accolades in college from fellow students and professors kind of off and on in college, and I basically told them, don't tell me I did anything good at all, because what I did I should have done. And as far as me getting some sort of acknowledgement, I don't want any acknowledgement for anything. We only acknowledge Jesus here 24/7. That's all we do. 100. That's it. Nobody has any accomplishments around here at all. None. I'll say, thank you for paying the house. Thank you very much. Here's money or something. We show appreciation here, but nobody gets any glory, any worship at all. None. I'm going to go to chapter 2 here. There's too many things in here in chapter 1. Paul gives 100 things to teach here. My goodness. What a wonderful teacher God gave us. And he's challenging us for Bible study and discipline. You better believe he is. I've been looking at Shakespeare and getting my vocabulary back in order, and I don't talk to anybody who speaks Shakespearean or PhD discourse, concourse. So I have to do a lot of work here myself. The last couple of friends I had, one of them was an orphan who had an 8th grade education. He graduated with an 8th grade probably education, maybe 8th grade. And the other friend I had, he also had an 8th grade level education, but not wisdom-wise. Both of these gentlemen were church gentlemen, and they both had a lot of wisdom. Their wisdom quotient was good, but their general IQ was low. And that doesn't help for a teacher in terms of you maintaining and developing a cognitive, cogent situation for yourself as a teacher. Teachers need to basically hang around teachers. But the last couple of years, I spent a lot of time with people who didn't have a high vocabulary. That puts a little bit more work on me. And it's to the point now where I'm like a lot of you out there. You're going to have to take your discipline level up, and it's a lot of it's a labor of love. You're happy about learning, of course. Like my students used to look at me when I was teaching. They were looking at me, and I kind of don't want to be here sometimes, but I really like learning, and my parents are getting happy about me learning.